A judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of two co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida. Ed Rabel reports.
Before pronouncing the sentence, Judge Edward Cowart let Bundy make a statement.
I'm not asking for mercy, for I find it somewhat absurd to ask for mercy for something I did not do. So I will be tortured for and will suffer for and receive the pain for that act. But I will not share the burden for the guilt.
In imposing sentence, Judge Cowart cited the savagery of the crimes and what he called the indifference of the defendant.
This court, independent of, but in agreement with, the advisory sentence rendered by the jury, does hereby impose the death penalty upon the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy.
Then, in an unexpected move, perhaps an afterthought, Cowart stunned the courtroom with some parting words for Bundy.
Take care of yourself, young man.
Thank you.
I say that to you sincerely. Take care of yourself. It's a tragedy for this court to see such a total waste, I think, of humanity that I've experienced in this court. You're a bright young man. You made a good lawyer. I'd love to have you practice in front of me, but you went another way, partner.
Bundy says he'll appeal. Meanwhile, he has been ordered to the state prison to await setting of the date of his execution in the electric chair. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Miami.
Porsche 911 Sally Special is based on an animated character that was based on a 911. The Sally Special is a one-of-one variant of Porsche's rear-engine sports car that's based on the car's character Sally Carrera. Disney and Pixar's 911 Sally Special is a one-of-one version of the German brand's rear-engine sports car. It's based on the 473 horsepower 911 Carrera GTS and includes a 7-speed manual transmission. Though it lacks eyes or a mouth, the Sally Special steals a number of cues from Sally Carrera of Cars fame. Disney and Pixar's Cars may have hit theaters in the summer of 2006, but production of the film started many years earlier, with production designer Bob Polly first sketching the film's female protagonist, Sally Carrera, in 2002. As her surname suggests, Sally is an anthropomorphic Porsche 911 Carrera. A 2002 Porsche 911 Carrera, specifically, better known by enthusiasts as a part of the 996 generation of 911s. Though the film cars may be only 16 years old, the character of Sally is celebrating 2 decades since leaving the animated Zuffenhausen factory. In honor of her Emerald anniversary, the Cars team worked with Porsche to create a one-of-a-kind 2022 Porsche 911, which bears the mark Sally Special. Based on the 473 horsepower Carrera GTS trim, the Sally Special brings elements of the radiator springs attorney to the modern 992 series 911. As such, Porsche also incorporated certain 996 generation design staples into the Sally Special. This includes silver headlight surrounds, as well as rear badging and staggered 5-spoke wheels that mimic those of Sally, and of 911s of her era. Porsche and Pixar, however, refrained from fitting the Sally Special with big eyes and a mouth in place of a windshield or front grille. Nor did they hire Bonnie Hunt to supply voice guidance for the in-dash navigation system. The most notable element of the Sally Special is arguably its Sally Blue Metallic hue, a distinct color that requires hand application. Sally Blue Metallic also spreads to additional areas of the car's front and rear fascias and engine lid, parts that Porsche keeps in black on the run-of-the-mill Carrera GTS. Raising the Sally Special's rear spoiler reveals a decal that matches the back tattoo-like pinstripes of Sally, a bit of decor she got back when she was living life in the fast lane as a Los Angeles attorney. Kudos to Sally for achieving so much in life in the 4 short years between her final assembly and the theatrical release of Cars. Like its exterior, the Sally Special's interior features an array of bespoke touches. Sally Blue Metallic decorates the cabin's trim pieces and complements chalk leather seats that include speed blue and chalk stitching and Pepita inserts, which feature a color combination of black, chalk, and speed blue. Chalk and speed blue. Other parts of the Sally pattern display of the 7-speed manual transmission's gear knob. Other distinct details include a printing on the dashboard above the glove box denoting the car's special nature, backlit Sally Special doorsill guards, and a unique Kachow mode that replaces the typical sport response button on the car's steering wheel mounted drive mode switch. Whereas most limited-run Porsche models are often spoken for before being released, the Sally Special is still up for grabs. This is because Porsche and Pixar are auctioning the car off at RM Sotheby's upcoming Monterey, California event. Proceeds from the sale, which takes place on August 20th, will benefit two charities: Girls Incorporated, a non-profit that serves girls between the ages of 5 and 18 and equips them with the tools and support needed to successfully navigate life's challenges, and USA for UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, a non-profit working to help the many refugees forced to flee Ukraine as a result of Russian aggression. Non-profit evaluator Charity Navigator awards Girls Incorporated a top rating of 4 stars. USA for UNHCR, meanwhile, achieves just 2 stars. Along with scoring the keys to the Sally Special, the winning bidder will also receive a matching Porsche design watch, a second set of wheels, including a custom-made rack to mount track tires on, a unique car cover, the car's original color molds and its show plates, and a special book filled with information charting the development of the Sally Special. Shed in Suwannee River State Park. February 15, 1978, Bundy is apprehended for good. After pulling over a car with its headlights off at 1:30 a.m., and finding the plates to match those of a stolen vehicle, Pensacola police officer David Lee finds himself in a violent scuffle before subduing the driver. Unwilling to give his identity right away, the man eventually reveals himself to be the FBI wanted Bundy. June 25, 1979, Bundy's trial for the Florida rampage begins. The trial, reportedly the first to be televised nationally, commences with jury selection at Miami's Dade County Metro Justice Building. Off the bat, Bundy complains to Judge Edward Coward about the conditions of his prison cell, paving the way for a bizarre month of proceedings, during which he bickers with his counsel, takes the reins to cross-examine a police officer and sits for testimony while referring to himself in the third person. July 18, 1979, prosecutors focus on Bundy's teeth. Despite defense objections to his testimony being permitted, forensic dentist Richard Suviron compares large photographs of Bundy's teeth to those of the bite marks found on one of the FSU students and proclaims them to be a match. July 24, 1979, Bundy is convicted for the deaths of the Florida State students. After deliberating for less than 7 hours, the jury of 7 men and 5 women find Bundy guilty of first-degree murder of Bowman and Levy and the attempted murders of Kleiner, Chandler, and Thomas. The following week, he is sentenced to die in Florida's electric chair. January 7, 1980, Bundy stands trial for the murder of Kimberly Leach. Brought to Orlando for his second murder trial in a half-year span, Bundy is undone by the testimony of a firefighter who had seen the suspect lead the 12-year-old to his van and the matching clothing fibers found on both the alleged killer and victim. 1 month later, the jury finds Bundy guilty once again. February 9, 1980, Bundy gets married before receiving another death sentence. During the penalty phase of the trial, Bundy proposes to girlfriend Carol Boone in the presence of a notary public, rendering their marriage legal. Shortly afterward, the jurors recommend the death sentence for the newly married convict. August 17, 1980, Bundy becomes the subject of a popular book. Crime reporter Ann Rule publishes The Stranger Beside Me, her recollections of working alongside Bundy at a suicide crisis hotline in the early 1970s and their evolving friendship as he came to be recognized as a deadly serial killer. The following year, Elizabeth Kendall writes of her own close encounters as Bundy's girlfriend of several years in The Phantom Prince. November 17, 1986, Bundy gets a stay of execution. Just hours before his scheduled execution for killing Leach, Bundy is granted a stay to determine his mental competency during his 1980 trial. 13 months later, a district judge rules that Bundy was fully competent for the trial, calling him a diabolical genius. For good measure. January 23, 1989, the killer attempts to atone for his sins. After admitting to numerous murders, including 3 that predate the Northwest Spree of 1974, Bundy sits for an interview with evangelist James Dobson and blames his demented behavior on his addictions to alcohol and pornography. That evening the U.S. Supreme Court rejects an emergency stay of execution for the prisoner by a 5-4 vote. January 24, 1989, Bundy is put to death by electrocution. At Florida State Prison, Bundy is strapped into an electric chair nicknamed Old Sparky at around 7 a.m. after telling witnesses to give my love to my family and friends. The notorious killer is declared dead by electrocution at 7:16, drawing cheers from the estimated 200 people gathered outside.
All except for Detective Ondrak, who arrived later, who was in plain clothes.
What was the attitude of the officers toward you?
Well, I testified as to Sergeant Haywood's initial reaction. After he told me to stand by his car, he proceeded to my car and he began to walk around it, shining his flashlight through the windows and peering in through the windows. the officer that I was standing with next to the patrol car began asking me questions, asking me what I was doing in the neighborhood, why I was there, so on and so forth.
Did any of the officers read you any rights, advised you your right to remain silent at that time?
No.
Did anybody advise you of the right to have an attorney present if any questions take place?
No.
Anybody advise you that you had the right not to talk to us?
No.
All right, and then Officer Hayward was looking in the car with a flashlight?
Yes.
And then what happened next?
He walked, as I was standing by the car, watching him and listening to the officer next to me ask me questions. I watched him walk around the car and shine his flashlight in the car. He apparently was focusing on something inside the car for some time, or it seemed like some time. He opened the car door, entered the car, and I couldn't see what he was doing. He came back to me and then repeated his earlier questions about what I was doing in his neighborhood, why I was there, and then, as I recall, he went to make another call on his police radio.
Did Officer Hayward or any other officer at the scene ask you for permission to search the car?
No.
Did you give anyone permission to search the car?
No.
Had you ever been arrested?
No.
Did anyone tell you that you had a right to refuse to let them search your car?
No.
Do you remember the words being asked to you whether or not you minded if they looked inside your car?
I can't recall a request to search my car, and the words, whether or not they asked me if they could look in my car, is something I don't recall or construed as a request to search my car.
Do you remember telling any of the officers that they could look in your car?
No.
At any point during this incident, did anyone read you your Miranda rights or tell you your rights?
Yes.
At what point was that?
After Sergeant Hayward had searched my car and called in another officer to come in, and after my car had been thoroughly searched by the other officers, Detective Andract approached me at that time and informed me that he was going to seize certain items from my car, and told me that he was going to attempt to get a warrant or a complaint or something of that type against me for possession of burglary tools. At that point, Sergeant Hayward or another officer, I'm not sure, searched me for the first time, handcuffed me, put me in his vehicle, read me the rights off a little card he carried on his console, and drove me downtown to the Salt Lake County Jail.
It was after the search had taken place?
Yes.
And after the items had been seized?
Yes.